And welcome to the Texas Talks podcast. I'm your host, Brad Swail. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Cynthia Cabrera, the Chief Strategy Officer at Hometown Hero, an Austin-based cannabis business specializing in veteran supporting hemp-derived THC and CBD products. Since her appointment in March 2022, Cynthia has been at the forefront of the company's advocacy efforts, fighting for the legalization and accessibility of hemp-derived cannabinoids amid challenges like product bans and excess regulations. A true leader in the industry, she's a founding board member and president of the Texas Hemp Business Council, where she works to advance and protect hemp-derived products in the Lone Star State. In 2023, she was also named chair of the Cannabinoids Council for the Hemp Industries Association, the nation's leading trade group for hemp businesses and farms, while serving as a board director. Additionally, she lends her expertise to the boards of the Hemp Association of Louisiana and the Tennessee Growers Coalition. Ms. Cabrera, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Awesome. That was a super long intro, much longer than I'm used to doing. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because, you know, if I'm interviewing a senator or a representative, you know, talking about their district and a little bit of their background, that's, you know, but it's obvious why they're here and why they're important to talk to. But we'll be talking about hemp in Texas, obviously, and the SB3 in the regular session. Now it's SB5 in the special session. I want people to know that you are the right person to talk to about this.
I do know my stuff.
Yeah, you do, obviously. You spend a lot of time. How long have you been, obviously you with Hometown Hero since 2022, but certainly, is that your first foray into?
No, actually, I used to consult for Hometown Hero as an external consultant before I moved in-house. So I have actually been working on this since 2018. At the time, I was a consultant, and I had clients across the country that were getting into hemp.
Okay. So since hemp is, I know in California, what it started in the 90s, I think, is when sort of decriminalization started.
California has a recreational marijuana market, which is very different than the hemp market.
Yeah. Right. But as far as just like marijuana and hemp and all that stuff, California has been doing it for a very long time. But 2018, I think, is kind of when more the Farm Bill, I think.
The 2018 Farm Bill signed by President Donald Trump legalized hemp products.
Okay. So what's the difference between a hemp product and a marijuana product?
So the cannabis plant is, or cannabis rather, I should say, is the botanical term for the plant. The legal definition is that whether it's if it's above 0.3% delta 9 THC, then it is marijuana. If it is below that, at or below that, then it is hemp and federally legal. Okay.
So you said 0.3%, and that's by weight?
By dry weight.
By dry weight. Okay. So if it's marijuana, if it's above 0.3, it's hemp if it's below 0.3. Other than that, are they the same plant?
Yeah, it's the same plant. I mean, they breed the seeds to produce, for example, hemp lower THC because it has to stay within compliance.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll breed hemp seeds to be lower producing THC plants, but the genus, the original plant is the same.
Okay. So yeah, it was around 2018 when that Farm Bill was passed that I started to see, and obviously I'm not the only one that started to see it. Everyone started to see, you know, THC products popping up, and like I didn't know. I was kind of like, how are they selling THC in Texas? I thought this was illegal. What's happening? And that's just sort of, I guess, when the industry here in Texas sort of boomed. And to hear some people say it's sort of an unintended consequence.
Well, Texas legalized and regulated consumable hemp products in 2019.
Okay.
So there's a lot of rhetoric and a lot of misinformation out there about how these products are not regulated. In fact, I just left the Capitol where there's a Senate State Affairs hearing going on. And witnesses who are for a ban, witness after witness kept saying, well, they're unregulated. It's not true. And you like to think that people that are making decisions would know something as basic as whether a product is regulated or not.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I do want to talk about the regulations that are currently in place pre-89th legislature, but just to kind of get a feel, to get a baseline of where the industry is today. I assume it hasn't changed very much since January. Maybe people have made plans assuming that SB3 would have passed and that there would be a ban, but what is the industry like today? What is it in Texas? Why is it important?
Well, the industry is important, and I can tell you this firsthand. So, the Texas Hemp Business Council, when we were trying to get a veto, the Texas Hemp Business Council had a petition going on. It was an electronic petition. Over 150,000 people wrote in on that petition. Thousands of other people contacted the governor's office directly and asked for a veto. We personally delivered 8,000 handwritten letters, and I read thousands of those letters because I had to look through them before we delivered them.
Sure.
I read thousands of letters from people in their 60s, 70s, 50s, people who had suffered tragedies. Some of them made me cry. It was unbelievable. So when I hear legislators talking about this industry as if they were a bunch of criminals or people trying to get over or like they're just stupid, it's infuriating and it's hurtful because I read these letters. I mean, there were women who had suffered rape, domestic violence, people who had been in car accidents, people who were suffering trauma from their childhoods, and they had finally found a legal product that they could use, and all of a sudden that's being threatened to be taken away from them.
Yeah. So that's the consumer side. On the business side, I've heard the number $8 billion thrown around a lot. $8 billion industry here in Texas.
Economic impact.
Yeah, economic impact. And I think there's something like, I can't remember if it's a little over 5,000, a little over 7,000, like different, like, I don't know, shops or stores that specialize in it.
Well,
how many people are employed, that sort of thing?
So there were over 53,000 people employed directly.
Yeah.
So that doesn't count indirect labor like delivery companies or printing shops or that kind of thing. Sales tax revenue generated from these products in 2024 was $264 million that was generated for the state. I think sales were like $4.2 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
Which is not nothing. And then the total economic impact is like $8 billion.
Yeah.
So on the business side, this is a vibrant industry. It has been regulated since 2019. So a lot of the arguments that are being made right now are spurious, right? They're specious arguments that aren't based in any fact. So, for example, I just left this hearing, and one of the law enforcement guys, Sheriff Dye, was commenting on how this industry wasn't regulated. I like to think law enforcement is aware of the laws.
Sure.
Right? So he made that comment. And then he talked about how they just didn't know how they would police it, so we should just ban it. So what you're talking about is law enforcement or someone from law enforcement. And I've had my run-ins with law enforcement. I've met them. I've talked to them. At the Capitol, it's riddled with law enforcement. They're all super nice.
Sure.
Everybody's super polite, super nice. And so to hear someone say, I've never heard of a veteran who, wants these products. I've never heard of a first responder who uses these products. It's just a lie.
I feel like veterans are often used in situations like this, and this is not necessarily, I mean, it's sort of tangentially related, but the Ibogaine $50 million study that the Texas state approved, that the state approved in the 89th legislature, was sort of couched in the idea that it could benefit veterans.
Yes. And
Veterans Association with the SB3, I saw veteran after veteran after veteran talking about how this is something that helps them for whatever, PTSD or pain management or whatever the case may be. So that's interesting that someone would make that claim. So SB3 in the regular session, obviously it was vetoed and sent to the special session. It was just an outright ban. It would have destroyed the industry. There absolutely no...
In fact, SB3 carried stiffer penalties and fines than it did for marijuana, which is federally illegal.
I'm sorry, how does that explain that?
So SB3 and SB5 have penalties and fines in them that are stricter and stronger than the fines and penalties for marijuana, which is actually illegal in the state of Texas, except for the state-sanctioned medical marijuana program.
Okay, so this goes back to the distinction between hemp and marijuana.
Correct.
Okay, so the gist, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. SB3 was a total ban.
Correct.
Okay. Now, beyond that, I was kind of surprised, and I think a lot of people were, where this all came from. And, it being Senate Bill 3, that means that it's a very high priority of Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. I could see it maybe being somewhere, a Senate bill somewhere, but the amount of attention that it got was somewhat surprising.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
I think for whatever reason, he and Senator Perry have some kind of vendetta about this.
Okay.
And what's interesting to me is that they were both there when they legalized hemp products and consumable hemp products. And what's important to note here is that they legalized it and then they directed dishes to promulgate rules for consumable hemp products. No one can say that they didn't know that these products would be consumed, because now you hear Senator Perry and the lieutenant governor talking about how this was supposed to be for fiber. Well, if it was supposed to be for fiber and fabric and concrete or hempcrete, why did you issue regulations for consumable hemp products?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people just assume, and I don't know if this is true or not. I know that I've seen like letters or documents that people share online about maybe the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission or not commission, but the that lobbying group or whatever. I don't know if I'm not suggesting that they are behind it, like that specific group, whatever it was. I can't remember exactly which one, but alcohol related. But a lot of people just sort of assume that the alcohol lobby is behind it. And I don't know if that's true. I could see why they might be, like what advantages they would have as an industry if they were behind it. But because it is just sort of seemingly out of nowhere, and as you described, they regulated it in 2019 for consumption. What is what is this big push? Why is it happening?
So what's interesting is that there is a division within the alcohol industry.
Okay.
None of it beneficial to the people who slaved in the industry for 6 years to build it into what it is. But the beer wholesalers adamantly wanted a ban. And they, donated money to the causes to support a ban, while the package stores wanted just drinks.
Okay.
So each of them went after something that would specifically benefit them.
Yeah.
And they did it under the guise of some kind of public safety facade. And nobody believes that, right? Beer sales are down. These products compete with beer sales. And so rather than just distribute the products like they could, they decided that what they need to do is eliminate them. And they figure they have the weight and the might to do it. And then you have the package stores that were like, well, we don't want competition from other kinds of consumables, but we would like to sell the drinks. So that's where they landed on that.
So when SB3 was sort of going through, when it was announced and going through the process during the regular session, sort of what actions did y'all take? What did y'all do?
During session?
Yes.
Well, during session, we showed up for every hearing. We had hundreds of people show up for every single hearing. I mean, one of them, I think the last one was 17 hours. And there were hundreds of people who testified in opposition. I think there were 19 or 21 people in support of a ban and hundreds of people against it. And actually, I take it back. That hearing, the 17-hour one, was when they introduced a beverage-only bill.
Yeah.
And there were people opposed to a beverage-only bill. And there were like 4 people who were in support of it, and then hundreds of people who were against it, because it's just a market play. It's just someone trying regulatory capture through the legislature for their benefit. So we did that. We activated consumers. We activated businesses. We did coaching for interviews. We reached out to legislators. We have lobbyists that work with us and understand the cause. I know that at one point, the lieutenant governor threatened lobbyists that were working on the hemp issue, which is interesting. I don't know that he's ever threatened other lobbyists before.
Yeah.
That was at a press conference. So,
was that the one where he threw the package?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I know the press conference.
Yes. Okay. That's the one. Anyway, so we just activated. We did a lot of grassroots activation, and then we did grass tops, and we had a lot of direct contact with legislators. What we were told was that they had guns to their heads.
Yeah.
They were forced to vote a certain way because legislation like school funding, for example, or I forgot what the other one was about water, the water rights, I think it is.
Yeah.
That one was being held hostage. So when you have a politician as powerful as the lieutenant governor threatening to hold everything up because he wants this ban, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's just, and so after session ended, legislators started coming out and saying, I didn't want to do this. I was forced to do it. I'm going to go visit a store. I really didn't understand the issue. And that's another issue is that, they just believed whatever the lieutenant governor said, which was riddled with inaccuracies and misrepresentations.
So, I mean, is there any truth to what Dan Patrick was saying, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick? I mean, are there dangers to the products?
Well, in that press conference that we just talked about,
Sure.
he threw a package at somebody and he
Correct.
said something to the effect of, no one knows what's in this. Would you want to eat this? Nobody even knows what's in it, except that he chose a product that gets tested 6 different times. All the ingredients were listed on the back. There was a product facts label on it that had the calories, the ingredients, everything was on there. So to say that you don't know what's in it, I mean, how does that even make sense? You could have scanned the QR code, which is required by law.
Yeah.
And it would have taken you directly to the certificate of analysis for the product.
Was that a Hometown Hero product?
It was.
Okay, so there's a personal aspect there.
Well, listen, Hometown Hero, we go out of our way. I mean, we're not required by the state to test multiple times along the way, but we do it anyway because we believe in providing a quality product. So it was not the right product to pick on.
Yeah. So as far as, there's a lot of talk about, it's about children. Obviously a total ban it's children and adults. But couching it in, we don't want kids to get these products. Speaking with, knowing Hometown Hero as a product, I'm not a user myself. I've seen it and I know people that have tried it. And having friends in the space, in the industry, the legitimate players out there don't want kids to have it.
That's exactly
a lot
right.
of stuff, a lot of voluntary action has been taken to prevent children from having it.
And that's the thing, is if your concern is minor access of these products, why not just pass an age gate bill? We floated one in 2021. We floated one in 2023. We floated one this past session, and it got zero traction. If you actually cared, if the lieutenant governor actually cared about underage access, he would have supported an age gate bill. Like, that's easy to do.
That's surprising that it would have gotten zero traction. Why do you think that is?
Because I think it would have legitimized the industry for him,
Okay.
and that is something he did not want.
Okay.
And if you recall in that same press conference, when he was asked about adults having access, he said, I don't want anybody in their 50s, 60s, or 70s to have this.
Yeah.
So he's decided that no one should have these products.
What were the regulations passed in 2019? Let's circle back to that.
So the regulations in 2019 require full panel testing. They require...
Full panel testing, meaning that you're going to get exactly how much THC is in this batch.
It will tell you how much Delta-9 THC is in there. You have to test for cannabinoids. You have to test for microbials. You have to test for filth and mold.
We don't want filth in any product.
We don't want filth in any... Well, you'd be surprised. Coffee has filth in it.
It absolutely does.
Yes.
But I still drink it.
Yeah, me too. So full panel testing means that they test for 5 different chemical type things.
Yeah.
So you have to do full panel testing. You have to provide that test to the general public via a QR code on the package that takes them to a website with that test on it. You have to list all your ingredients. In fact, and I have to give Texas, I used to give Texas a lot of credit because when they promulgated their rules, they actually did a good job because it was very comprehensive. The only thing they missed was the age gate. But Texas specifically requires that manufacturers follow FDA food guidelines for manufacture.
Okay.
Which is a pretty high standard.
Okay. So the age, you're saying age gate.
Yeah, meaning the limit.
Yeah. So, since there is no age gate right now, you floated those 3 sessions. It didn't happen this past session, obviously. It's not legal for children to purchase it, correct?
The problem is it's not illegal.
Okay, so it's just a sort of a legal gray area.
Yeah, they left it out. And that's
Okay.
on the legislature. And they could have fixed that years ago.
That's interesting that they wouldn't have put that in the 2019 regulations.
You would think.
Knowing that THC is an intoxicant, certainly if you take more of it, whatever. There's benefits, but it changes your mental capacities.
It's been floated to me, and I wasn't here.
Sure.
I didn't live in Texas at the time, but it's been floated to me that the industry was set up to fail.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's interesting is that if you talk about the agricultural side, or meaning the industrial side, so hempcrete or, hemp wallpaper, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
it takes a long time for the public to accept a different type of material.
Yes.
You have to get insurance companies to agree to insure that product during construction. You have to get general contractors to agree to use the product. It's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And what they forget is that what has kept all these hemp farmers in business all this time is the fact that they're able to sell their biomass to processors in this industry, in the finished goods industry, while the industrial side develops. Hemp houses are way off in the future.
Yeah. So, yes, a hemp house. That could be something else entirely. You're talking about a house that's built using hemp products.
The thing is, I saw a presentation by a builder who focuses on hemp houses,
Yeah.
and it was one of the most depressing presentations. It was at Texas A&M, and it was so sad because he was talking about all the obstacles they encounter in trying to get this to be just a conventionally accepted material.
Yeah.
And at the end and it was just so quiet, like nobody's cheering, nobody's whatever. And at the end of his presentation, he said something like, so I think in like 50 years, we'll have a lot of hemp houses.
Yeah. I feel like Austin would be a prime spot to start something like that. So, going to the regulation on the concentration of THC, and I want to differentiate between THC 9, 8, and 10.
Okay.
But the concentration of THC 9, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the THC that's just naturally found in marijuana plants or hemp plants, correct?
So the Farm Bill definition of hemp, and it's kind of a long definition, but it specifically says any cannabinoid that is naturally occurring.
Okay.
So Delta 8 occurs naturally. Delta 10 occurs naturally. They don't occur in quantities as great as Delta 9, which is what makes Delta 9, the main ingredient in most products, but they are naturally occurring. And there are about 140 cannabinoids that are naturally occurring. So Texas adopted the USDA's definition of hemp products.
Okay.
The exact same one. And it says that hemp products are legal as long as they are under 0.3% Delta 9 THC by dry weight.
And that's just Delta 9 THC. So if there was a strain of plant or whatever that had, less than 0.3% dry weight THC 9, but it had whatever, some crazy number, 10% THC 8, that would still be hemp product.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So,
Well, I'll also go back, and I have a letter somewhere that was written to Merrick Garland and is it Secretary Vizlak? Can't remember.
I don't know.
But anyway, it was written by the USDA to them explicitly saying our definition of what a hemp product is overly broad because we wanted to spur innovation.
Okay.
So that is the purpose. They wanted to spur innovation, and that is what happened.
Okay. So when there's talk about banning synthetics, are they talking about, I guess, what are they talking about? What's a synthetic THC? What is that?
So people who talk about banning synthetics are uninformed.
Okay.
They're dumb.
Okay.
Because Texas has banned synthetic cannabinoids since 2011.
Okay.
And this is what I mean. It's like, why are you making rules without knowing the rules?
Okay.
Synthetics are already illegal. They're federally illegal. They're illegal at the state level. If you find synthetic cannabinoids, in this case, that's like K2 and spice.
Okay.
And there's a whole section of them called JW compounds, which are named after the guy who discovered them or invented them or whatever. They're all in Texas's Controlled Substances Act. If you find somebody selling those, you should arrest them because it's illegal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So synthetics are already illegal, and I mean, I guess yes, that's interesting. I just assumed that it was the THC and THC 8 and 10 that were more, I don't know, like you could synthesize, whatever. I guess I'm glad that you're here to
What
educate.
they're doing is they're conflating the method of manufacture with the end product.
Yeah.
Synthetic cannabinoids are illegal. Arrest whoever is selling synthetic cannabinoids. The process by which they are made does not make them synthetic.
Yeah. So as far as strength and concentration goes of THC-9, and I mean, this is everything that I've seen so far, so before I get to that, everything that I've seen so far, correct me if I'm wrong, CBD and I think CBG. Yeah, I know there's also CBN and CB, whatever, CBs, all over the place, CBs. Those are all, CBD is still legal in all of these contexts, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not being touched.
Well, it is being touched because the definition in SB3 and now in SB5 is that if there is any trace amount of THC, then it's illegal.
Even a trace amount?
Even a trace amount.
Interesting. Okay. So as far as the concentration of THC-9 goes, so long as it's below 0.3% by dry weight, then it's legal.
Federally and state legal.
Federal and state legal. I've seen products that are, they advertise 100 milligram THC or 10 milligram or 5 milligram or anything in between, really. I think the most often concentration I see is probably 10 milligrams. I don't know why that is, but it seems like maybe part of their argument is that there needs to be regulation around the concentration and how high it can really be.
Those 10 milligrams are still below 0.3% delta 9.
Yes.
Right.
But what about obviously even 100 milligram, it's below 0.3%. Otherwise it would be illegal and they wouldn't be allowed to sell it.
Correct.
But I could see someone saying, hey, THC is legal. I think that's right. But man, a 100 milligram gummy or whatever, or cracker, or however they sell it, chocolate.
A cracker.
250 milligrams, whatever it is. That sounds like a lot. And that is a lot for just like well, let me ask you something. Yeah, please.
How do you know what's a lot? You said you don't use the product.
Right. That's not that I've never used a product, but I also know just from talking to people that have used it, if I used a 10 milligram product, I know that I would be high. I wouldn't be like crazy, obviously, but if I didn't know anything and I took a 250 milligram product, I would be grabbing onto the grass hoping I don't fly off the planet. Probably. But
so what I will say to that, two things. Number one, your body, do you drink alcohol? Do you drink beer?
I not very much, no.
Okay.
I try to live, but I've drank my fair share and that's just not who I am.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's totally cool.
Sure.
When you drink, your body treats alcohol like a poison.
Yeah, it is a poison.
It's a poison.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't drink very much because my body doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Every human has an endocannabinoid system built in.
Yeah.
So every human is built to be able to receive cannabinoids in their system.
Yeah.
It's just built in. Everybody has it. So when we talk about tolerances, the tolerance is different for everyone. So I'm like you. Well, I'm worse than you. I'm a lightweight.
Yeah.
Right. So I hardly ever use anything because I'm just a lightweight and like there's no point. I need to do work and whatever.
Yeah.
But if I have a headache, or I can't get to sleep for a few nights, I'll have a gummy, a little piece of a gummy or something like that. However, and in reading those letters and I've talked to hundreds of people personally. I've met people who take 100 milligrams a day because they've got, some kind of PTSD or some trauma they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so the other issue is that when you talk about putting in a cap on the milligrams, you also have to wonder, you have to ask yourself. So I was talking to a veteran a few weeks ago, and we were talking about milligram caps and that kind of thing. And at the end of the day, when you limit, right, the manner in which or how somebody gets the serving that they need, you're going to increase the cost for them.
Yeah.
And so what this guy wanted to convey to me was, listen, I know you guys may end up having a conversation about limits. He said, but I want you to consider that it's expensive for a lot of veterans.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to cost more money. And, it's just something for you guys to think about, And so I asked him, I said, what do you use?
Yeah.
And he said 25 milligrams.
Yeah.
He takes it in the morning and then he takes it at night.
Yeah.
25. I mean, it's a total of 50, but he said by the end of the day, he just, so to sleep, he takes another one. So my point is that everyone is different. And so I ask people, what qualifies you or what knowledge do you have that says that you can decide for other people what they should take. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be limits. I'm just saying, how do you know that you know what the magic number is?
Yeah, right. Buying 10 milligram gummies is probably more expensive than buying 100 milligram, obviously. And yes, a lot of people compare THC and hemp and the alcohol industry or how alcohol is regulated and treated. And you're right. I could go get, 80 proof vodka, and if I drink a bottle of that, I'd be dead.
Yes.
Or I could get the same amount of beer, and I'd probably end up throwing up at the end of the night, and would feel
and get fat.
And get fat, and I'd feel bad the next day, and hate myself for doing that to myself. But so SB3 regular session is now SB5 special session. Abbott, when he vetoed it, it seemed like he was signaling when he vetoed SB3 and said, we're going to kick it to the special session. I think that there's work to be done here, basically, and maybe some additional regulations. I don't know what those additional regulations he had in mind, but, I've read banning synthetics. And I think even Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick put out a newsletter 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Does he have a newsletter?
I think it's a newsletter. It's from his website.
I got to sign up for that thing.
This one was called THC equals Texans Health Compromised, if you want to find that one. And he mentioned in there talking about banning synthetics. And you're telling me synthetics are already banned. So I'm not really sure what's going on here.
Well, this is the thing, is that you hope that your legislature will give you the truth and tell you what's actually happening. How do a bunch of legislators that want to ban something keep saying it's unregulated when they know it's regulated? And here's the other thing. The kicker to that is, if something is actually illegal, why are you trying to make it illegal again?
Yeah.
If it's already illegal, then go deal with it.
If it's double illegal, then it's
right.
Extra,
what does that make it? Like, what is that?
Double punishment. I don't know. What is
bonus
double
points? Like, what is that?
A double negative and it becomes legal, I guess.
Correct. I don't know.
Yeah. But he seemed to signal that further regulation would be worth the time of the special session.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it now, I'm seeing like it establishes age restrictions and labeling requirements,
which already exist,
as you've said, but it also bans products that cause intoxication. And so I'm like, so it has nothing to do with it. Your THC is gone. Like age restrictions and labeling requirements for what if it's banned?
Right.
And I guess it's just CBD.
It's just a lot of word salad.
So SB5 is just as bad in the sense that it's just as bad for the industry. It's basically the same bill.
It's actually worse.
Okay.
Because 3 different polls were taken throughout the state that show there is no appetite among the public for prohibition. 150,000 petition signatures, 8,000 handwritten letters delivered to the governor, in addition to the number of phone calls and emails they got directly to his office. So it's worse because the public has spoken.
Yeah.
And you went ahead and just did the same thing all over again. It just shows that they're tone deaf.
So what in the special session, what is your goal? Hometown Heroes' goal? What is the hemp industry's goal? Is it just to kill it outright, or do y'all agree that some additional regulations, you talked about the age gate, that makes sense.
We fully support additional regulation. I would personally like to see that it specify final product testing. So the way the regulations are written right now, it says that you test as appropriate. We test multiple times in the manufacturing process, but final product testing, and the way we approach everything, our philosophy is consumer safety.
Yeah.
And so when I see people put forth policy positions and none of it supports consumer safety, I know they're just making a play for something else.
Yeah.
Right? So specifying final product testing would do that. It would support consumer safety. And I think that is something that should be added. So we support that. We support age gating. We also voluntarily use child-resistant packaging. And I think everybody should use that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be clear, alcohol does not have child-resistant packaging on it, and everybody's okay with it.
I mean, you could argue that a wine cork is child resistant.
Until the adult takes it out and pops it back in. Sure. I mean,
correct.
It's not that hard to flip open a can of something.
That's true. Yes, yeah. I know. Or a bottle cap. You have to have special tools.
It's a lot of hypocrisy.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a lot of, different rules applying for different industries. And the Senate hearing I just came from, or the State Affairs Committee hearing I just came from, someone said, and I think it was Senator Perry, he said something like, well, we can't do anything about alcohol. It's already, the horse has left the barn.
Yeah.
But it's far more dangerous
Yes, alcohol certainly is a dangerous product when used inappropriately, and
Like every product.
correct. And some would argue it's dangerous under any amounts. And it is so ingrained in our culture and our society, and it has been for hundreds and hundreds of years. I understand where he's coming from on that, but that doesn't mean I still think that it's worth addressing that argument of, okay, alcohol also hurts lots of people and intoxicates people. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, very strong advocacy group.
Texas is the number one state for alcohol-related vehicular accidents.
Right. So I think that that's an argument worth addressing, and I think it would benefit. It would be beneficial to hear that argument. Why? Okay, it's out of the barn. So, right?
Well, yeah. While you're at it, ban cigarettes.
Yeah.
Ban tobacco. I mean, if you're going to ban everything that you think is harmful, ban everything then.
So, is on the intoxication front of it, obviously, we all grow up learning don't drink and drive, and there's a really big push to don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. People do it anyway, but people don't think about the intoxication effects. Like, should there be stronger penalties for, or are they the same? I don't know. Is it the same? It's the same
I think
penalty?
they would be the same, but I don't know that people don't think about it. I've talked to enough people, and I try not to speed, although my car goes really fast, and so I have to remind myself all the time to slow down.
It did it on its own, officer. I
kind
promise.
of, I mean, you just tap it and it goes. But I do think that people think about it, and I think people make responsible decisions. Are there people out there who make irresponsible decisions? Yeah, all day, every day, in all kinds of industries. Sure. So I don't think a blanket statement like people don't think about the potentially intoxicating effects of the product. I don't think that's a fair statement, because I personally know people who think about it and plan accordingly.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I should change the way I should have changed the way I said that. Totally agree.
Oh, no, you're cool.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. So what's the future of the industry? Let's assume SB5. The special session is totally bunk for SB5. Doesn't pass, whatever. Or it goes to Governor Abbott's desk and he says, this is exactly what you sent me before. I'm getting the same amount of letters. Stop it. We're done with this. Maybe try again in the 90th. So it's back to square one where we were 7 months ago. What's the future of the industry?
Well, I think the future of the industry will be determined by whatever the outcome is. And also, I mean, I will say that I do have sympathy for people who had a bad experience or have been scared by stuff that they've heard. I feel bad for them because they don't have access to correct information. And I think that the industry needs to spend more time educating people about the products. I mean, I think, is it beer or maybe it's just alcohol in general? They have that use responsibly tag. Mm-hmm. And I think that the industry needs to embrace that and push that message out as well. I mean, there are issues, and that sheriff that was talking, he talked about finding all this marijuana flower that was, testing really hot, and it's actually marijuana being sold as hemp. Well, they should deal with that. If that's what's happening, then deal with that, and the industry will help with that, right?
Yeah.
But I think that assuming nothing happens, whatever, I would like to see an age gate bill passed. That would be nice. I really don't even see what there needs to be debated about that, like why it wouldn't pass.
I think that 100% of Texans would agree with that.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, how much do the legislators that are making all this noise about these products actually care? If their bill's not going to move forward, potentially, are you going to support an age gate?
Yeah. Well, the reason why I asked the question is because, say, I don't know, a senator might be, maybe they tune in and they watch it or whatever, someone from their office, and they're thinking, it's just a bunch of kids that are trying to get high, or a bunch of ne'er-do-wells in their 20s trying to, whatever, have a reefer madness type stuff, whatever. But it's more than just if SB5 passes, it's not just the THC products, correct? It's all, is it everything, like all hemp products, or is
it's everything?
It's everything. So the future of the industry, you're talking about 50 years from now, the hemp houses.
And so they'll talk about how hemp farmers don't need this industry, and that just shows a complete and total disconnect with farmers, because farmers absolutely need this industry. It's what keeps them in business until, such time as hempcrete and hemp houses are the standard.
Yeah.
But if you shut down this industry, you can say goodbye to all those farmers. And I think from 2023 to 2024, the hemp acreage farmed in Texas increased like 10 times. It went from like 150 acres to like 1,500 acres.
Yeah.
If I remember the number correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, it increased quite a bit. Those farmers are not surviving by making hemp houses.
Yeah.
They're surviving by selling biomass at a good price to processors and manufacturers.
Yeah. They are using, when something else, when the, whatever, hemp houses, hempcrete, whatever products, clothing, stuff like that becomes more popular, more, more profitable, right? Then there might be a
shift.
Yeah. Right. And maybe someone else will grow for the THC or gummies, and someone else will grow for that. And, but right now they need this to survive until that point.
And it's a complete fallacy to say that farmers will not be hurt by this. Yeah. That's a lie. That's the same, it's the same as the sheriff talking about not knowing any veterans who use these products. That's a lie.
Yeah. Well, Cynthia Cabrera, Chief Strategy Officer at Hometown Hero, I really appreciate you taking the time. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention? I definitely want you to plug website, social media, stuff like that. But any other message that you wanted to get out there before we sign off?
Yeah. Texas touts itself as a business-friendly state. A business-friendly state does not pick winners and losers. And one of the things that was leveraged against this industry was the expansion of the medical marijuana program. The state sanctions federally illegal marijuana being sold in the state. So it's a state-sponsored monopoly that they have. The largest provider in that space has about 70, maybe 75% of the market.
Yeah.
It benefits one person at the expense of thousands of other businesses. And that's something that people should consider. The state is not supposed to be picking winners and losers. In addition to which, you cannot call yourself a business-friendly state if you allow a business, regulate a business, and then decide that you're going to end it. Also, Texas is the 5th most regulated state in the country, just behind California. The idea that there's liberty and freedom here, it's being eroded by people who are out of touch and out of step with what people want.
Yeah. What's the social media and website?
TexasHempBusinessCouncil.com if you want business information, hometownhero.com if you'd like to purchase some products or also get some information there.
Okay, great. We'll put the links down for that in the description below. Thank you so much. I really appreciate taking the time.
Thank you.